Rain came sideways, hard enough to sting and loud enough to turn my tin roof into a drum. Every drop hit metal with a steady warning, like the storm was counting something down. The porch boards were already slick, dark with water, and the whole valley smelled of wet cedar, cold mud, and the rosemary bush beside my steps. The creek below my property roared louder than usual, like it had rocks in its teeth, and the wind kept trying to pry the world loose. I had just finished tightening the storm straps on my greenhouse when I saw her climbing up from the guest cabin. She was fighting the wind, holding a wicker basket tight against her ribs. She slipped once, one boot skidding on slick clay, then caught herself on my porch post with a sharp inhale that carried all the way to me. Sylvia Marin was not supposed to look like that. In the city, she was all sharp lines, clean clothes, and camera light. Out here, with rain streaking down her cheeks and a smear of mud across her jeans, she looked real, solid, like someone you could lean on. She reached the steps and stared down at her boots like they had betrayed her. "I'm sorry," she said. "I tracked mud all over your deck. And look at me." Her thick rubber boots were caked in brown paste, mud packed deep into the tread. She shifted her weight like she was bracing for a complaint. I looked like a swamp creature. I watched her shoulders tense, waiting for me to say something about the mess or the risk of slipping. Instead, I spoke quietly. "You apologized for your muddy boots." She blinked, confused. "They look better than any heels I've seen." Her throat moved when she swallowed. The basket shifted in her hands. "I saved the lettuce," she said softly, "and rosemary. I thought I could make something." "Come in," I said, "before the mountain decides to throw you back down the hill." Inside, she shed her wet jacket and I handed her a towel. She hesitated at the door, eyes flicking to the mud she had tracked in. "Don't," I said before she could apologize again. "Mud dries. Worry doesn't." Some of the tension left her face. I nodded toward the window. "You wanted to cook with local ingredients," I said. "Come see where they come from." We stepped into the greenhouse, the plastic skins snapping in the wind, straps humming under pressure. Inside, the air changed. It was warmer, alive. Rows of green stood bright against the gray day outside. Rosemary grew in a raised bed by the door, the scent sharp and clean. Sylvia brushed her fingers along the leaf without picking it. "This is—" She stopped, like she didn't want to admit how much it mattered. "It's work," I said, "and it's a promise I can keep." Her eyes moved over the beams, the fasteners, the way everything had been built to hold. She noticed details the way a chef notices knife edges. "You built this," she said. "I did." She looked at me again, quiet respect settling in, not flattery. "You're not pretending out here." "No," I said. "Out here, you either hold or you break." Back in the cabin, the rain kept tapping the roof like it was counting seconds. My place wasn't fancy. Pine floors scarred by tools, a table that had seen more work than meals, a stove that could keep a room alive. Sylvia hovered near the door, still watching the mud. I took the basket from her hands and unpacked greens, carrots, rosemary sprigs. I set a pot on the stove. My hands needed something steady. "Tomorrow is my grand opening," she said behind me. "I know," I said. "What's wrong besides the weather?" She let out a breath, like she had been holding it all day. "Aldo Ruiz came by the restaurant this morning. Said he was checking permits. Then he closed the road for storm safety." Her voice went flat. "He offered a private solution." "What did you say?" "No. Good. He said it would be a shame to miss my opening." She paused, and he reminded me about a clause in my lease. That was the real trap, not pride, not romance. A deadline with teeth. I set a bowl in front of her once the stew was ready. Rosemary warmed by smoke, salt enough to ground you. She took a bite and blinked. "You cook," she said. "I feed myself," I said. "Tell me what you actually want, Sylvia, not the press version." She stared into the steam. "A place where people can come without feeling like they don't belong," she said. "And a clean start where my name isn't louder than my work." I nodded once. "Then we make sure tomorrow happens." Her eyes lifted. "We?" I didn't answer right away. I listened to the rain on tin. In Chicago, problems arrived in emails and meetings. Out here, they arrived with weather and men like Aldo. I pulled a map from a drawer and flattened it on the table. The main road crosses Aldo's checkpoint, I said. If he blocks it, he controls you, so we don't use his road. There's only one road, she said. Not if you own a tractor. I tapped an old logging path climbing the ridge. That's a mountain, she said. It's a hill with an attitude. A reluctant laugh slipped out of her, the first real warmth since she arrived. You're serious. I don't joke about hauling weight in weather, I said. You want this opening? You listen to me. She held my gaze, then nodded. Okay, tell me what to do. First, I said, you change. You're soaked. She hesitated when I tossed her one of my flannels, thick and soft from work. This is huge, she said. It's a shirt, I said. It's supposed to cover you. She pulled it on anyway, sleeves swallowing her hands. I look ridiculous. You look warm, I said, and like you robbed me. She smiled real this time, and for a moment the storm outside felt farther away than it had all day. That night, long after the rain should have eased, headlights swept across my living room wall. Slow, deliberate. I stood and moved to the window. A pickup idled near the gate. Lights pointed toward the guest cabin like a reminder. Aldo didn't get out. He didn't need to. When I stepped onto the porch, rain hit my face cold and sharp. I stood where he could see me, shoulders squared. After a few seconds, the truck rolled back and disappeared down the drive. When I came inside, Sylvia was standing in the hallway, hair loose, eyes wide. Was that him? She whispered. I nodded. I'm not alone, she said quietly. No, I agreed, you're not. And as the storm pressed against the cabin, I knew the mountain, the weather, and Aldo Ruiz were all going to test that truth before morning. Morning came slow and gray, the kind that feels earned after a night like that. The storm hadn't left. It had only settled in, rain falling steady and cold, like it planned to stay all day. I was already up when Sylvia stepped into the kitchen, wrapped in my flannel, hair loose and messy like sleep hadn't wanted to let go of her. She stopped when she saw me at the table. The map spread out again, a mug of coffee steaming beside my hand. You didn't sleep, she said. I rested. I answered. Different thing. She poured herself coffee and leaned against the counter, eyes following the pencil marks on the map. So this is really happening, she said. We're taking a tractor over a mountain. A hill, I corrected, with opinions. She smiled faintly, then sobered. If this fails, it won't, I said. But if it tries to, we'll catch it before it breaks. That earned a nod. Sylvia wasn't reckless. She just refused to quit. By first light, we were loading crates behind her restaurant. The rain had turned the alley into a ribbon of mud. Boxes of produce, dry goods, bottled oil, everything she needed to open those doors. I balanced the load low and tight, checked the chains, checked them again. Sylvia climbed up to steady a crate, her boots sinking with a wet sound. Those boots again. You sure about those? I asked. She looked down at them, then up at me. You said you liked them? I said they looked better than heels. And I believed you, she said, eyes bright. Don't back out now. I boosted her up onto the tractor fender. She held the rail with one hand and my shoulder with the other. She wasn't clinging. She was trusting. That mattered more than she knew. The engine rumbled to life, deep and steady. We rolled toward the edge of town just as people started lining up outside her place. Umbrellas bobbing like dark flowers. Word had spread. Curiosity always does. A mile out, Aldo was waiting. His pickup blocked the road, hazard lights flashing through the rain. A road closed sign leaned against his bumper like a badge. A deputy cruiser sat behind him, parked just far enough away to look official without getting involved. Aldo stood in the lane, hands on his hips, smile fixed. Chef Marin, he called. Big day. Sylvia straightened beside me. Move your truck. Storm protocol, he said. Unsafe crossing. But maybe we can find a solution. I killed the engine and stepped down into the mud. The weight of the trailer tugged behind me, chains clinking like they had something to say. "Aldo," I said, "you're blocking a public road." His eyes slid over me like I was an inconvenience. "Didn't know you were involved. I am now." He looked past me at Sylvia. "You should reconsider this partnership. Investors don't like instability." Sylvia stepped up beside me, shoulder brushing my arm. "Not hiding, not yielding. I'm not reconsidering anything," she said. Aldo moved closer, the way men do when they think space belongs to them. "I can make today very hard," he said quietly. I raised my phone and tapped record. The small red dot glowed bright in the rain. "Say that again," I said. The deputy shifted, suddenly very interested in his own boots. Aldo's smile cracked just enough to show teeth. "Fine," he snapped. 30 minutes. If anything happens, it's on her." "It's on the weather," I said. He moved his truck just enough to let us through, like he was granting mercy. We didn't thank him. 2 miles later, the creek proved the real danger. A section of bank had collapsed. Mud and gravel slumped across the road. Water churned inches from the edge. Sylvia stared. "We can't cross that." "We don't," I said, turning the wheel. The logging trail rose sharp and narrow, wet shale shining under a skin of mud. The kind of ground that liked to slide. The trailer felt heavier back here, like the mountain had reached out and grabbed it. Sylvia's fingers tightened on the rail. "This is insane," she said. "It's physics." "It's controlled physics," I said. "When I say lean, you lean." She swallowed. "Okay." The tractor groaned uphill, engine roaring against the grade. The steering wheel fought my hands, every vibration traveling straight into my bones. The left rear tire slipped. The machine lurched sideways toward open air. "Lean," I said. She shifted instantly, weight high side, breath steady. "No," scream. No panic. The tire bit again. We crawled forward inches at a time. Higher up, the trail narrowed along a drop where trees gave way to nothing. Wind cut across the ridge. Rain stung my face. The trailer creaked like it was arguing with gravity. A rock rolled under the front tire. The hitch slammed. For a half second, the load went light. Then everything slid. Metal shrieked on stone. We stopped hard, the rear wheel hovering too close to the edge. Silence hit like a wall. "You alive?" I asked. Sylvia let out a shaky breath. "You're calm. That's unfair." "Stay," I said. I climbed down into slick mud, boots sinking cold. I wrapped a chain around a pine uphill, hooked it to the trailer, and cranked the come-along. Click by click, the load crept back from the edge. When I climbed up again, Sylvia was watching me like she was seeing something new. "You're bleeding," she said. "It's nothing." She took my hand anyway, checked the scrape with a careful touch. "Thank you." We crested the ridge not long after. Town spread below us, lights glowing through rain. Her restaurant windows shone warm and bright. Sylvia stared at them like she was looking at something she had almost lost. We rolled in behind the building as the crowd gathered inside. The smell of bread and rosemary hit us the moment the back door opened. Sylvia stepped down, still in her muddy boots, my flannel peeking from under her jacket. Aldo stood across the street under an awning, watching. His smile vanished when he saw the trailer. Sylvia lifted her chin and walked into her restaurant like it belonged to her. Because it did. I stayed close as service began. The kitchen moved fast and clean. Sylvia was steady, calling orders, correcting sauce, adjusting heat like she was tuning something alive. Halfway through service, the lights flickered. A nervous sound rippled through the room. I was already moving. Out back, I yanked the generator cord. The engine caught instantly, steady and strong. The lights held. When I came back inside, Sylvia met my eyes over the pass. Respect, clear and quiet. Then Aldo walked in. "I'm here to make sure everything is compliant," he said, loud enough for the room. Sylvia didn't flinch. "Everything is compliant. If you want dinner, there's a line." He leaned closer, hand brushing the counter. I stepped between them. "You're standing in her restaurant," I said. Say what you need to say in front of everyone. Phones came out. Aldo saw them. Calculation replaced swagger. Enjoy your night, he said tight. Thank you, Sylvia replied. We will. He left. The room breathed again. Near closing, Sylvia caught my wrist as I passed. Just a touch. Out back, she murmured. 5 minutes. Rain dripped from the gutters. The generator hummed. I didn't clean my boots, she said, glancing down. I noticed. In the city, she said softly, they judge you by polish. Out here, this feels honest. She rested her hand on my chest, light and sure. You pulled my opening over a mountain, she said. You stood between me and a man who thought he could own me. You didn't make me feel small. She rose onto her toes and kissed me. Chosen, steady. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. Still think my boots look better than heels? She asked. Now I'm sure, I said. She smiled. Rain and warmth and stubborn hope all wrapped into one moment. The storm hadn't won. And neither had Aldo. But I knew something else now. This wasn't over. The town didn't sleep after the opening. It buzzed. Word traveled faster than rain in a place like this. And by morning, people were already talking about Sylvia's food, the warmth of the room, the way the lights never went out even when the storm tried its best. I knew better than to believe that meant peace. Sylvia showed up at my cabin just after sunrise, boots still muddy, hair pulled back, eyes sharp with a tired kind of fire. She didn't knock. She never needed to. He filed a complaint, she said. I set my coffee down. Aldo. He claims unsafe operations, improper access, unapproved equipment. She let out a slow breath. The county inspector's coming this afternoon. I nodded once. Good. She blinked. Good. Better daylight than darkness, I said. And better here than your place. Her shoulders eased a fraction. You're calm again. I'm prepared, I corrected. We spent the morning tightening what was already tight. I checked the greenhouse anchors, the trailer hitch, the generator lines. Sylvia walked with me, asking questions, learning the way someone learns when they want to stay alive in a new environment. You always build like this? She asked, watching me test a brace. I build like things will be tested, I said. She smiled at that, then grew quiet. You could walk away, she said. This isn't your fight. I looked at her then, really looked. Mud on her boots, resolve in her jaw, no polish, no performance. It became my fight when he tried to make you small, I said. She didn't argue. The inspector arrived just after noon. Clipboard, clean jacket, eyes that missed nothing. Aldo didn't come himself. He didn't need to. Men like him preferred shadows. The inspector walked the property, asked questions, checked paperwork. I answered calmly. Sylvia stayed beside me, not deferring, not defending, just present. This logging road, the inspector said, tapping the map, not approved for commercial transport. It's not commercial, I said. It's private access across leased land. He raised an eyebrow. And the generator? Permitted, Sylvia said, handing over the file. Installed and serviced. The inspector flipped through pages, nodded slowly. By the time he left, the air felt lighter. No violations, he said. But I'd recommend documenting everything. Some people don't like change. Sylvia watched his truck disappear down the drive. He's not done, she said. No, I agreed. Neither are we. That night, the rain finally stopped. The silence felt strange after days of noise. We sat on the porch, the valley breathing below us. Sylvia kicked her boots off and tucked her feet under her, still wearing my flannel. I keep thinking about something, she said. What? In the city, when things went wrong, I always assumed it was my fault. That I hadn't played the game right. She looked out into the dark. Out here, it feels different, like the rules are clearer. They are, I said. Weather doesn't lie. Neither does land. She turned to me. And people, I met her gaze. People show who they are faster when there's no room to hide. She leaned her head against my shoulder, light at first, then settled. I don't want to go back, she said quietly. Not to that version of myself. You don't have to, I said. Her fingers found my hand. She laced them together firm. Down in town, a truck engine started and then faded away. For the first time since she arrived, I felt something unclench in my chest. But peace, I had learned, was never permanent. It was something you built, defended, and rebuilt again. And Aldo Ruiz was not a man who accepted losing. Not quietly, not ever. I stared out into the dark valley, feeling the weight of what was coming, and tightened my grip on Sylvia's hand just enough to let her know, whatever came next, she wasn't facing it alone. Aldo made his last move 3 days later. Not loud, not public, quiet enough that it could have worked. Sylvia found out first. She came to my cabin just before dusk, face pale but controlled, a folded letter clenched in her hand like it was something alive. He pulled the funding, she said. I took the paper and read it once. Short, legal, clean, the kind of thing written by people who never see what they destroy. They're claiming market instability, she went on, saying the opening surge isn't sustainable. The bank will call the note in 30 days. She waited for me to say something comforting. I didn't. I walked to the table, opened a drawer, and pulled out a thick folder she had never seen before. What's that? She asked. My exit, I said. Her eyes widened. Clay, no, I don't want you risking your... I already left, I said calmly. Chicago, the firm. I sold my stake when I moved out here. She stared at me like the ground had shifted. This land, I continued, is paid for. No loans, no liens. I slid a document across the table. And this, I said, is a proposal. She picked it up, hands shaking now. A partnership agreement. Her name. My name. Equal weight. You're serious, she whispered. I don't build things I don't plan to stand in, I said. Your restaurant doesn't just need a kitchen. It needs ground that can't be pulled out from under it. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. This isn't charity, she said. No, I agreed. It's stubborn. She laughed once, broken and real, then crossed the room and pressed her forehead to my chest. I don't know how to thank you. Stay, I said simply. She pulled back just enough to look at me. I was never going to leave, she said. The bank tried to push. Lawyers called. Aldo sent messages that went unanswered. When the paperwork was filed in public, when the land and the business were legally tied in a way he couldn't touch, Aldo disappeared. Men like him always do when the game stops favoring them. A month later, the valley changed. People came for the food and stayed for the feeling. No dress code. No pressure. Muddy boots, welcome. The logging road became a story people told with pride. The storm opening turned into legend. One evening, long after closing, Sylvia stood on the porch beside me, watching the lights glow below. You know, she said, nudging my boot with hers, if I'd worn heels that first day, none of this would have happened. I smiled. Heels don't belong up here. Neither did I, she said softly, until I did. She slipped her hand into mine, familiar now, certain. Love didn't arrive like a movie scene. It arrived with weather, with work, with mud on boots and hard choices, and someone standing beside you when things got heavy. Sylvia rested her head on my shoulder, the valley quiet around us. I'm glad I apologized for my muddy boots, she said. So am I answered. They brought you home. And for the first time in a long while, I knew exactly where mine was, too.